Hi everyone, Trish Triumph Sullivan here, and this is part 2 of assignment number 8 for Photo 1, Advertisement. Boom, so we're going to look at some examples. So some of these are student work and some of these are professional photographers, things that were actually in magazines. So let's get started really quick. Here's a nice student one. There's a little, they've taken time to isolate the background, and they've actually put this shampoo on a background of hair. And they've used some petals and some lemon slices, it looks like. So really they did a good job with this one. It's looking pretty nice, and it has a couple issues of a little bit of specular highlight here and here on the bottle. But other than that, it's a pretty decent one, that pretty close to what might be in a magazine. So here's another nice one. This is student work as well. And we've got a watch. And yeah, would you see that in a magazine? Maybe you wouldn't see this shadow right here if it was a magazine. But pretty close, right? Here's one where the lighting is not what we talked about, right? We said the best is direct and fill, and here the person has used diffused lighting. And even with diffused lighting, notice we've got some specular highlights here, some reflections there on the bottle. And the bottle, the half of the name, the brand, is in shadow. So would you see that in a magazine? No, that'd never get past the art director. Here's one that's a very lovely photograph. There's only one problem. What are they selling? Where do I buy it? What's the brand? There's no clue here. Is it just, eat more apples, or an apple a day keeps the doctor away, or an apple a day will keep anyone away if you throw it hard enough? That's my philosophy anyway. So let's move on. Here's another one where they've used indoor lighting, which we said not to do. So there's, once again, we've got some reflection on the glass here, on the glass bottle, and the half of the name is a little obscured. It's not quite turned enough to see the name. I think this is supposed to be an advertisement for Coca-Cola. If you notice, the name is in shadow. So I do not think this would go over very well in a magazine. I don't think it would make it past the first go-round. Here's one where they've ended up, they've done a pretty good job of making food look appetizing. And this is, obviously, they have the brand in there, the whipped topping, Producer's Dairy whipped topping. One problem with this is you've got some distortion from being too close. The camera's too close, and you can see this is a little out of proportion here. Let's see if we can get it to darken up a little bit so you can see it a little better. But you can see there that the actual can is kind of out of proportion, so you definitely have some distortion. We've seen that with our portraits as well, right? Too close with the camera, you get facial distortion. Well, you could also get distortion here. This would not be, the idea is great. The background is isolated, but wouldn't quite be ready for prime time. Here's one where the idea is good. Lighting's not that great. It's just not doing it. Here we have one where we have some coffee, but look at how the, let me see if we can get this. There we go. Look at how there's like a shadow here that's covering part of the package, and the package looks pretty wrinkly. Doesn't look that great. Right? Here's another one. Make sure your spokesmodel is good, and make sure you can see. Remember the actual item that you're trying to sell should be kind of the biggest thing in the image. Right? This is a little dark, and this also has some distortion on it. We can't even see the full name of the product. This one's okay. Once again, we've got a lot of reflection on the bottle and on the name as well, so it's not, maybe not quite ready for prime time. Here's one with food, and yeah, it's okay. You know, you guys, it's not the most appetizing. I probably wouldn't use a plastic fork if I were gonna, and a styrofoam plate if I were gonna try to sell this into a magazine. Okay. Once again, we have poor lighting, so it's difficult to see the product. You need to use natural light, right? Whether it's indoors or outdoors. Here's another one where they've used a flash. Once again, this is not acceptable for this particular assignment. You must use fill light and direct light, right? Direct plus fill. And this one, once again, has a little bit of distortion from being too close with the camera. This one is decent. This is pretty close to what you might see something in a magazine, right? You have nice lighting. It's a very narrow depth of field. We can see the bottle looks slick and new. Here's another one where they've isolated the background, but once again, you've got some issues with the lighting. You can't really see the brand very well. Right? It's hard to make food look appetizing, you guys. Seriously. This is not something that would make me want to buy Nutella. And once again, lighting is poor. You cannot use indoor lighting. Right? This is one that's a pretty blatant. This is definitely a student one here. And it's definitely pretty blatant, using the number one thing that advertisers use to sell product, and that is sex. And you can see what they've done here with the Eclipse gum. Here's a nice one for a Pediacare. Up here, I would see that this here looks like it's been opened and it's kind of half full, so that I would change that. But the lighting is good. You can actually see the product. Crayola crayons. Lighting leaves something to be desired. I don't think you'd probably see this in a magazine. This is a better Nescafe, but once again, we've got some distortion. You can see the actual jar of the coffee looks like it's kind of tilting out of the frame. Here's one with natural light. Maybe not quite ready for prime time. So this is one that a student did, and I want you to look at this. It's hard to do jewelry and make it look good. So this is just regular indoor lighting. It's pretty flat. You're not really seeing much of a sparkle, and the roses don't really add much to it. So the fake roses aren't something that really adds to this particular photograph. Here's one with some food. Remember, we talked about how difficult it is to make food look good. In this case, they've used black and white, a really narrow depth of field, and focused in on that olive there, and it does look pretty appetizing. It looks like you might want to take a bite out of that. Right. So here we're going to look at a series of 4 photographs. Now these were full-page ads in a magazine. So they had a magazine where they took out actually 5 full-page ads, and the first 4 of the pages are only photographs. So there's no words, there's nothing to give a clue what this is about. So I want you to look at these and think about what they are trying to sell here. So we're going to look at them, and then we'll go back and look at them again. So what are they trying to sell here? What are they saying about this product? It's maybe that it's strong, right? Strong enough to hold up a bikini, pull out a tooth, save a little baby chick from certain death from an anvil falling, or even keep this guy's pants up, which is pretty difficult. So you think it's dental floss? It's not dental floss. It is fishing line. So they didn't say anything about what it was. They just showed what it does, right? Without showing anybody fishing, without showing it on like a fishing rod. You don't see that to the last page, which I'm not showing here because I want you to see how the advertisers used some humor, right, to advertise their product and show what they wanted, demonstrate what they wanted you to know about their product. And in this case, they want you to know that their product is strong, right? It's not going to let that big fish get away. Right? If you can hold this guy's pants up, it's definitely going to not let that fish get away. So here's an ad in a magazine ad, and I'm going to tell you, please don't try this at home, right? And you can see they've used some motion blur to really make it seem like this car is moving fast, right? This one too, right? It's like a car behind this car filming as the car is moving at the same speed, so the scenery looks like it's flashing past, right? Do not try this at home. This is not part of the assignment, but it's just an idea of how they might make something look like that, okay? So here's another series of full-page ads, and when you look at these, you're going to see that they didn't have to show anything to see what to know what they're selling, right? We don't have to see the real deal, so they've managed to, with some humor, show what their product is and what it does. Okay, so they're looking at body piercings, and that is a pretty amusing one. Now, normally I tell you guys, do not tilt your horizon line. In other words, don't tilt your camera so it looks like the horizon is tilted. But in this case, the photographer has done it and it works. It gives it a really dynamic look. We don't have any doubt what this advertisement is about, right? They're selling lettuce, right? No, they're selling shoes, right? They're selling Nike shoes. And we know it because not only are they wearing the shoe with the Nike logo, the swoosh, but their socks have a little Nike name and swoosh on it. So notice that these guys are running and they have some repetition of shapes because their legs are all in the same position. And they're basically running on flat land, but the photographer's tilted the camera a little bit to make it look like they're running uphill. And it really gives it some really nice lines here, right, with the legs and the feet. You can see there. And with that dynamic tilted horizon, it really gives it some movement. So this is a really good one here. This would not make me want to buy Gatorade. I know it's supposed to be humorous, but it's just not that funny. And here's a really nice professional one. This was in a magazine. They're doing a portrait or a photograph of jewelry. They're trying to sell this jewelry. And I want you to look at some of the elements that the photographer has put into this composition. First of all, notice that the background is dark and isolated. There's plenty of light on the subject, which is the jewelry. But it's kind of a little bit of diffuse. There's a little bit of diffusion. It's direct light, but there's a little bit of diffusion on it, so it's not really, really bright with a lot of reflection from the stones in this jewelry piece. So I want you to notice some of the repetition of shape. So we have here this kind of artichoke triangle shape on the leaves, but it mimics that triangle shape in the jewelry. Right, so you've got a nice repetition of shape. The lighting is fantastic, and the product is isolated. So you have the attention on the product. Let's see, let's go. So here's one. We showed this when we were looking at portraits, but it's actually an advertisement. So check out what is being advertised. It's a pair of earrings, and this is a very simple photograph. We have an idea about the subject. We know who she is. She's a famous person. And the few things that the photographer has done here by having the hair splayed out and having her winking gives an idea of the personality. And it's a very simple, very nice photograph of the earrings, too. You can see them. They look good on her. You've got these radiating lines coming out from her head that bring your attention down into the subject. You can see the hairs coming out like that. So that's a real nice photograph. Here's another one that's a pretty blatant use of sex to sell things. Of course, Drew Barrymore topless in a boxing gym. The guy behind her definitely seems like he's pretty interested and pretty unrealistic, but probably sold a lot of Everlast. Right. Here's another humor one, not all that funny. This is a good one where they've taken a backpack in the water, and you see these piranhas, and if you look over in the back, you may not be able to see it that well, but it says danger, right? And it's telling you basically that, once again, this is a real strong product, right? The backpack is strong. The person it was attached to is gone, possibly eaten up by the fish, but the backpack has survived, right? So here's one. Let's see if I can tilt the camera just a little bit so you can see this a little better. There we go. So here's one where the horizon line is just tilted slightly, and you can see that down here on the table it's on. The camera's just slightly off. Would it be in a magazine? Probably not, just because of that. Now the lighting is nice. It's very nice direct and fill light. You can see the logo plainly, but I fixed this one, and you can cropped it just a tiny bit so you can see the difference. Check that out. Right? Makes a big difference in how that looks, doesn't it? So I want you to make sure that you use an editing program, and a good one is called Pixlr. It's a free program that is on the internet. You don't have to download anything to your computer for it. I think it's pixlr.com. pixlr.com, Pixlr. And it's a similar program to Photoshop. You can do a little bit of slight adjustment to the orientation of the photo, and you can crop, which is what I want you to make sure you do if you make a mistake like this and have it slightly off. That would never go in a magazine, but that might. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. Here's another one where they've not really isolated the subject very well. They have not used natural light. This is artificial light, regular indoor lighting. And I think they actually had to use a flash on this as well, maybe. And you can see there's distortion, right? It's distorted. This would never be in a magazine. This one might. This is much nicer lighting. It's natural lighting. And I might say that to fill the orange juice glass up a little more, but you can see the product, you can see what it does, and it does look fairly appetizing. Here's a student work where it looks really dull, right? This is not good lighting for this particular subject. You can see the strawberries look kind of dull, maybe old, just doesn't look that attractive, doesn't look like something I'd want to do. And you'll recognize this once you've watched the movie, The Heavenly Portia, and you'll see why the student has done this with the reflection and everything on an HP laptop. So we have the Heavenly laptop here. So you'll get the idea of that once you see that film that you're supposed to be watching. This is another really nice one. Notice the narrow depth of field, so that we can see the person in the background, resting, sleeping, but it's a little bit blurry, so it's not the focus of attention. The thing that's in the best focus is the product. You can see right there, the Robitussin product. So this shows what the product does, right? It gives you a chance to get some rest when you're sick. The product is large in the frame and in focus with good lighting, right? And the cropping is good. The product looks nice and isolated. That's a real nice one. So let's go back. We're going to take a quick look at one other one here. Let's see. We'll look at a few, and we'll look at a few of ones, and we're going to go through these fairly quickly. But here's, so as we're going through, we're going to be like yay or nay. Like, would it be in a magazine or not? So this is a nay, not good enough. Good idea, but not good enough. Not. Yes, this is a really nice one. They've identified the brand. They've shown what they are, because you can see let me just tilt this back up just a little bit so we can see the whole thing. There we go. So we can see the guy with a tie on. They've used really nice color, so that the color is like a repetition of color, repetition of shapes. Really nice advertisement. I would see this in a magazine, no problem. Okay, this one, covered up. They have the flower covering up the name, so the lighting is nice. They've isolated with a very narrow depth of field, so it really has a nice feel to it. But they've covered up the name on the bottle with a flower just a little bit, so not quite ready. This one, great lighting, very soft. It shows off the sparkling of the jewelry. We get the brand. We see what the brand is. And I would say this is pretty close to something for a magazine, right? This one, nay. A lot of work went in to isolate this product. We can see the product well. The food does not look that appetizing, so I would say nay. Right? Not good. We have all this reflection on the product, right? We never see that. And the actual drink itself does not look particularly appetizing, right? It looks like they've taken a drink out of it, and it just doesn't look that great. I would say that's a definite nay on that one. Let's see if I can just get that a little bit more into the frame. There we go. So you can see it a little better there. Okay, perfect. So what could have been done with this? Well, for one, fill up the glass. Two, they might have blown air through the straw, so it looked a little bubbly and frothy on top, and maybe even put, because the glass actually looks kind of dirty, so you would never see that in an advertisement, a real advertisement. And you can see the straw there. I might have blown bubbles in it to get it frothy on the top, filled it up a little higher, and done the lighting like we asked in class, right? Direct and fill. And if you had to use diffused so you wouldn't get all this reflection here, then do that, right? Good idea, too many spokesmodels, right? We don't think Dr. Oz and the lovely young lady in the tank top both need to be there. I think you'd pick one or the other. They've done a good job making the drink look appetizing, because it's been sprayed with water on the outside, so it looks cold. Same with the actual can. It looks nice and cold with the condensation on it. And they've isolated the background, or the product from the background, so it has a real nice feel to it. Here's one that could possibly be in a magazine. The lighting's good, narrow depth of field. The product's been isolated. The product is kind of the largest thing in there, right? It's nice and focused on the product, so that could be in a magazine. Here's one where the idea is great, but the lighting is not great, right? They used a flash. It's just not good. And if you're going to use a spokesmodel, you got to make sure that everything is perfect, right? The clothes are perfect, the hair is perfect. And I would actually have the product be a little larger in the frame and more in focus. Right, here's a no. Right, the package has been opened, it's wrinkled. The horizon line's slightly off because the cup looks tilted. And there's maybe a little bit too much branding in here. Maybe if they just had the cup with the Oreos, that would be enough. All right, so here's that one again. Okay, the crystal geyser water in front of the green ocean does not look particularly appetizing, right? If they're saying that that's where the water's coming from, then I wouldn't want to be drinking it. All right, here's one where the idea is good. The background leaves a lot to be desired. Okay, if you're going to use something like food, make sure the food looks appetizing. The chips don't look that great. The sandwich looks a little soggy and old. And then you've got over here, you've got the brand right there, but it's upside down and you don't even see the whole brand. So you have to look at all these kind of things when you're doing something like this, right? This is too dark. The lighting's not good. This one is pretty decent. I mean, check this out. They've done a great job isolating the background using like black or, cloth, and then put quite a bit of product in there along with some coffee beans, and it does look appetizing. Right? Idea's good. Lighting is not good for this particular product. Right here we've got the depth of field a little bit too narrow, and the lighting's okay, but the product is not shown that well, I don't think. Here's another no. No. Definitely no. This is actually a really nice one. Now I would have liked to have seen the product identification be a little larger. But you can see the label there. It says Alba. That's a agricultural, land-based training organization. I can't remember exactly what that stands for. But it basically helps people learn how to be organic farmers so they can grow their own produce and have their own business and sell it to stores and larger companies. So they've done a great job isolating the product. With you can see there's just it's used like a blue tablecloth behind it, but it works. The basket that's kind of overflowing with this beautiful organic produce. And they've made the produce look really fresh by spraying it with some water, so it has a real nice dewy look to it. Very well done. Too dark. Good idea, but a little dark on the actual name of the product here. It's hard to see. Lighting's better on this one, but the background leaves a lot to be desired. This is a no. And you guys, when if you're trying to do food, you need to make sure your product is isolated, right? You don't want junk in the background over here like this, right? Some old cup, to-go cups and stuff kind of in the background next to the fridge there. And you don't want your product to look worse than it does on the box. So in this case, what's showing on the box and what they've made do not look anything alike. So this is where some slicking of the product would be needed. You know, when they took the photograph here on this actual box, they probably got the cookies out of the oven when they were soft and stuck a whole bunch more chocolate chips on the top to make it look like it was just, bursting with chocolate chips or chocolate chunks, right? But when you look at the reality, it doesn't look very bursting with chocolate chunks, does it? So, and they don't look that appetizing, frankly. The lighting is good. The background leaves a lot to be desired. And if you're going to show the product done, then you need to show it looking even better than it does on the box, I think. Right? This poor cat does not look too happy to be next to the litter box right now. And I would say for sure that the actual box or the bag of litter looks pretty wrinkly and used. So I definitely would say the idea is good. Lighting is poor, right? This is just indoor lighting. And the bag needs some slicking. It needs to look better. Okay. Here's another one. Flash lighting, no go. Too dark. Good idea, but not quite good with the lighting. Remember, this is diffused, and that's not what we want. Here's this is a little dark, but they've done a fairly good job making it look decent. Not perfect, but it looks decent. Right? Background leaves a lot to be desired here. This is a nice one. This looks like I'd want to eat it. Another one with a lot of stuff going on and we're not really sure what they're advertising. This as well. Here's one that doesn't look appetizing at all, and I don't think the tilt of the camera is helping. It looks like they used yogurt instead of milk for this, and it's just too dark. The exposure is not right for the cookies, and the lighting is terrible. Remember, this is indoor lighting. It looks like they used a flash. Nah, not working. Right, this is outdoors, but it's in the middle of the day, so the lighting is kind of dark on the label of the product. Right, good idea, but think about what you might have done differently to make this more look like something that would be in a magazine. Perhaps the spokesmodel would be in a white fluffy robe and have a white towel on the hair, right? You wouldn't have him sitting on a couch with a quilt on the back. And the lighting is poor, right? Remember what we told you guys about lighting. You want direct and fill, and you want it pretty much to come from the side of the person, right? Same with this one. Maybe you would have cucumbers on the eyes, something like that, right? You'd have the person in a robe with a towel on the hair, maybe a couple cucumbers on the eyes, and holding up their mask. Okay, make it seem like spa day there. Okay, so that gives you an idea of some examples of what's good and what's not good. We're going to go back and show you a couple of good ones here. That one, really nice. And remember, if you're going to do food, be careful with the food, okay? Food is really difficult to do. Try using something that you can see easier, you know, something like, let's see where we're at here. Some jewelry perhaps, or this is a good one with the ties. This is one of my favorites. I think this is a fantastic one. You want to have a really good advertisement. Try picking something other than food, you guys. Okay, so that's it for the part 2 of the advertisement lecture. Make sure you watch the film, The Heavenly Portia, and I'll see you guys in class.